Back up.
Here?
A little bit close. Yeah, a little
Too
bit.
close?
I think so.
You in the shot?
Yes.
Okay. Is this good?
Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey everybody. Aborigine Reptiles with a new species profile. Today we're going to be talking about this little guy here, the Ackie monitor. And we're going to talk a little bit about why it makes a great reptile pet, arguably one of the best. And we'll pick apart all the different aspects of caring for these great lizards. So stay tuned, and more to come. Why am I saying stay tuned? Like we're just doing it. Anyway, we'll keep rolling. So let's get right into it. There's two different types of Ackie monitors. The red Ackie, which I have here, and the yellow Ackie. Same species. They just happen to be from two different localities in the great continent of Australia. The red Ackies get slightly larger, and they have a much deeper ocelli pattern, as you can see here. This one's going into shed, so a little muddied out. But the yellows have a little bit more distinct pattern around their head. But otherwise, they are the same species, so it's just a matter of preference on what animals you prefer. This one's only about half grown. This is one of our holdback males. So as you can see, they get about twice the size. So about the size of an adult male bearded dragon in terms of length and pretty much in girth as well, depending on what you have. So in terms of taking care of these little guys, it's very similar to bearded dragons, just a little bit hotter. So if you're familiar with bearded dragons or you have them, a lot of this will sound familiar to you. So let's start off with enclosure size. As you can see right behind me and in the video clip that's going over the voice right now, we use a 4x2x2 PVC cage made by Cages, but you can use any PVC cage, wood, even in an aquarium if you have one large enough. That's the basic footprint, 4x2x2. That's for babies and or a group of babies and mid-grown. What's mid-grown? Juvenile animals like this one right here. We have a pair and a trio in these right now. When they get larger, you'll be squeezing an adult in a cage that size. So definitely plan ahead. We like to use stock tubs, the 6 foot long, 8 foot long stock tubs for these animals when they're adults. It allows them a lot. They are very active animals, so it allows a lot of room for them to explore and move around and dig. So definitely plan ahead for these guys. They're not going to simply fit in a 40-gallon breeder or one of those Exoterra cages and be happy. You definitely want to plan ahead and make sure that you have the right enclosure for them. So something to take into consideration when you're thinking down the road. So you can definitely start out with a smaller cage when they're small, but as they do grow, you want to anticipate a larger enclosure as they do get bigger. So that's the enclosure itself. In terms of the inside the enclosure, let's start with substrate. Now this is a topic that a lot of people have different feedback, feelings on, depending on who you are and your experience level. I'll start with the most common substrate used for these animals, and then I'll kind of get into what we use here at Aborigine Reptiles. The most common method, and that you'll see out there with many other videos, is the thirds. They use 1/3 play sand, 1/3, don't mind me, that's my phone, 1/3 potting soil, and 1/3 cocoa fiber. This is great. It really holds, if you're going to be using that for the entire enclosure, it will hold some good tunnels for when they're digging if it's kept adequately moist. But the downside of this is these animals do dig a lot and they get really dirty. This one, again, is not a great example because she is in shed, but when they're digging, they're going to be constantly muddied, and with that potting soil, it also creates some dust over time just because these animals are moving constantly all over, and it can get very dusty in there with the potting soil drying out and some of the sand. So I personally don't like that one. Many people have had success with it and use it, especially in the tubs or the large troughs. They'll put up to a foot of that mix so that it can act natural and dig through it. What we found works best for us is, as you can see here, we use a cypress mulch as a layer that you can find for $3-4 at your local big box home improvement stores. put a couple inch layer of that throughout the cage, and then what we do is we put a dig or hide container in the enclosure. The one you're seeing on the screen right now is just something that we've built. It's a little 5-gallon tub for our juveniles. It's filled with a sand cocoa fiber mix, so that does still have the ability to hold form for tunnels. It holds humidity, and it allows them a place to retreat during the hot day, or they all go down and sleep in there at night. So that's what's worked for us. The cypress mulch is easy to clean, easy to switch out, affordable, something that can retain some moisture but at the same time be dry. And then we let the deeper 6-inch up to 12-inch when they get larger nesting type boxes filled with the cocoa fiber sand be their hide box for when they're juveniles, and we go up to a larger size when they get a little bit bigger. But in terms of the overall, that's what we use. It's worked really well for us, and it's a little bit practice. I've seen people keep them on all cocoa fiber or the cocoa nuggets. I've seen them keep them on just play sand, but they have limited success with that. So play around with it, try out what works best for you from a maintenance standpoint, and just overall keeping the animals vibrant and clean. That's what works best for us. In terms of temperature, you want to provide a thermal gradient just like you would any other reptile with a cool and a hot end. The hot end should be in the 90s, cool end into the low 80s. Hot spot is the key factor here. So we want a concentrated area of about 120 to 140. That sounds really hot, and it is because it is really hot. Don't put your hand there too long, you will burn it. So the important thing is that's surface temperature. So make sure you have a thermal gun to read. You can get them on Amazon for 20, 30 bucks. Read that temperature, surface only, not ambient. So they need that to get hot. These animals thrive in heat, very similar to like a neuromastics. These guys love the heat. They don't stand down all day. They go up, they warm up, they move around, they forage. So it's very important to get that right. Also, UV, huge. A lot of people have talked about, there's some debate around if monitors need UV light. Especially the ones that eat a whole animal diet. They treat it like snakes, that they don't need it. These guys live in the desert. They're exposed to sun, intense sun all the time. So we use UV, and I recommend you use UV as well for any diurnal lizards like this. You'll see a very big difference in how active they are, their colors, their overall appetite, and just activity level. So definitely recommend it. A high level UV, they make the Reptisun 10.0. You could use mercury vapor. Arcadia makes a really high level. I believe it's a 13.0. Try them all, and we've had great success with all of them. So make sure you use that. In terms of the heat, we did talk about the hot spots. It's important to provide a thermal gradient as well. You'll see stacks made by popular by Frank Reitz. The Reitz stack is a wood or slate stack with multiple levels under the spotlight. This provides hot on top and gradually cool down. Again, as you can see in the video that I'm showing there, we have used that in the past, but now we have moved to putting a tile on top where they can get hot, but they use that sand underneath to dig down and get low. Why it's important to have that sand is A, for enrichment for their digging behaviors, but also these animals during the day in the wild dig into crevices and deep into the ground where the humidity is very high and it's much cooler. So it's important to provide that humidity for their skin for proper shedding. These guys can be a little bit problematic with shedding if they're not provided with that humidity, as well as just keeping hydrated and keeping cool. So having that humidity is crucial. So you want to provide a hide that has that high level of humidity. Don't just put a little cave that you bought at PetSmart or Petco in the corner and call that a hide. This isn't like that. As you know, with many animals such as leopard geckos and any other reptile that's from the desert, they do like to have a nice humid hide. So that's very important, especially for these guys. Okay, moving on to my favorite part, food. These guys are arguably some of the coolest animals to feed because they're not like your typical monitor. You don't have to feed them mice, rats, or chicks, or gerbils, or anything like that as they get older. These guys are highly insectivorous. So we feed these guys a mixture of lobster roaches, dubia roaches, super worms, some occasional mealworms as a treat. In the summer, if you can find grasshoppers in a safe, non-sprayed chemical area, they love them. They go crazy for them. That's a majority of their diet in the wild. The other parts that you can feed these animals, a lot of people feed them chopped up and cooked scrambled eggs or hard-boiled eggs, no butter, no oil, obviously. Also, they used ground turkey, just a raw ground turkey that you can find. I don't like the turkey so much just because it's kind of just the meat mostly. What a hack that you have here with a lot of our breeders and our smaller animals to grow them up. There's raw dog food, frozen raw dog food. It's been a big thing that's started the last 2 or 3 years. That's whole food, raw meat, and it's got the meat, the organs, the bone, some fruits and vegetables, and some vitamins and minerals mixed in there. You have that all in a nice, they come in small bite-sized pieces as well as larger patties. Those are great, and you can thaw them out, and you see, as you can see here, they love it. It's a complete diet. We feed it maybe once a week and then typically stick to insects throughout the rest. When they're small, they eat every day. When they get larger to full-size adult, every other day typically. Just depends on the time of year, the temperature you're keeping at them, if you're breeding them or not. So something to consider there. Supplementation, calcium, vitamins, just like with any other reptile. I like to use is a mix of calcium and vitamins. I have 3 different calciums I use. You don't have to go that far, but it's something I like to switch up to make sure they're getting the various different minerals that are out there. I use Repcal, I use Mineral, and then I also use the Arcadia calcium supplementation. They all have different levels of D3. They all have different minerals that are built in. Some have a clay, an actual mineral clay. And then I use a vitamin supplement. I supplement these guys every time I feed them. They are high energy. They're growing fast. When they get older, I'll cut back that supplementation to maybe every other feeding. But when they're young like this, they are growing very rapidly, and they use all that calcium and all those vitamins. So make sure you do that. Water. I provide these guys a bowl of water every 2 to 3 days. They get a lot of their moisture from their food and also their humid hides, but making sure that they have access to clean, fresh water. I put it in there for a couple of hours. They drink their fill. They play in it, some of them. They go crazy. Then I take it out. I don't want the enclosure getting too humid. We want to keep that relative humidity in the the low 50s, and they'll have that humid hide to get much higher than that. So making sure they are hydrated, because it is important. So that's the food and the water. We've talked enclosure, we've talked heat, we've talked food and water. Let's talk about handling really quick. As you can see, this guy, he was sleeping, so we took him out. So he's a little bit placid. You'll hear it from everybody differently. Some people say yellow Ackies are much more timid and easy to handle, and the reds can be a little bit more aggressive and nippy. I actually have the opposite in my situation. I don't know what it is. It could be the bloodlines, but my reds are dogs like this, little baby puppy dogs. And they're great. I get to scratch their heads every day. They hang out, they eat from my hand. Never been bitten, never have gotten flighty on me. Whereas my yellows are the opposite. They're a little bit flighty. They get a little nervous, never bit me, but they get very spazzy when I go in to try to feed them or talk to them. So it all comes down to the individual lizard, and obviously you want to work with them. Ever since we've had these guys hatch, these little guys, I've been working with them almost daily. I take them out while I'm on my computer. I'll throw them on me just like this early in the morning when they're cool. They'll get to use me as warmth, but they smell me as well, and they get used to me and know that I'm not a threat. There's a lot of great videos out there that talk about taming your Ackies. And I'm sure those work as well. I just never had to get to that point where I have to do, like the hand and the touching and the petting. These guys, you start working with them small, start working with them when they're cool, so they're not flighty and moving all over the place. It allows them to just kind of warm up on their own, and once they start getting a little warm and antsy, then you can start handling them a little and then put them back. But that's usually, enough time. So they do make amazing pets. So they're easy to handle. They're really fun. They're very, very, very intelligent. They can figure out a lot of things. So think of new ways to enrich their environment. Every time I clean their cage, so when I do a full clean out, like once a month, I will take the substrate out, obviously put some new in, and then I completely rearrange their cage. It takes some days of searching. That I'll put some new rocks in there, some new roots or branches, caves, cork bark, anything, and they just love it. They spend days smelling things, exploring, digging, and that's really important because these animals do need some level of enrichment. So give these guys a try. You can find them more and more on the internet. There's a lot of great breeders out there that work with these. They've come down a lot in price over the years, including Aborigine Reptiles. Remember us. We'll have these available throughout the year as well. Great animals. Check them out. Check out our Facebook. Keep an eye out for those. But yeah, if you haven't tried one of these guys, definitely give them a go. They're a great animal, a great pet. If you have any suggestions, any comments, leave them below. And any questions, feel free to reach out to us via Facebook. The link's down below as well. And let us know what you'd like to see next with the Australian reptiles. We have a ton of different species. We'll be bringing you more videos like this, as well as a couple of specific care videos around gut loading, lighting, substrates, things of that nature. So love to hear from you guys. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you so much.